I want to take a different approach when talking about this movie that I had just watched. It is by Markiplier, and he is the main character Simon in the movie Ireland, which is basically an adaptation of the video game made by David, Ireland. Now, if you don't know what Ireland is about, it's basically based on this premise, as you can see here. Ignore that it's AI generated and summarized that way, but welcome to the modern internet. I don't like Google for that, but back to the topic. I want to take a different approach by actually talking about first what I thought about the movie before I go into a completely different rant. That's actually something very simple. Now, I'm going to speak on the movie, but I already have a clip where I go over like my overall rating on it. It's basically just this character who gets like, he's punished because of a convicting thing that he had allegedly or was a part of the Quiet Rapture, a catalysm event that had happened in space and destroying all these stars and all that crazy stuff. So now he's stuck in this submarine that is named Ireland. See where this is going? So now he has to try to find this SM8 thing that's like sample, as you would call it, for the people up there for human survival. Yet it doesn't seem to work out because they don't forgive him for what he did. Simon is just stuck suffering and he's covered up in blood. That's basically summarizing me of it.
Essentially the system, as we're starting a movie, the system is telling Mark that he is essentially part of the test. Not like they've already done this before or something like that. Ooh.
But with that being said, I want to talk about something that's kind of, imagine being in that position, right? And boom, it's dark.
What do I do if I find something not on the map?
Run.
Yeah, I'm gonna turn the lights back on. You can't see me. But imagine, just bear with me for a second. Imagine just being in this position where you could...
Oh, that's Final Destination.
Convicted of something that you were only partially doing, but you didn't mean to do. Or, let's put it this way. You were put in this Ireland submarine thing because you are basically framed for doing something much more than what it actually was. Yes, maybe you got involved a bit, but you're the only one that's mainly suffering because you might be a threat or the most intimidating, as Simon probably was. Seemingly, he seemed to be, according to how the speakers framed it as, the scientists. Oh, shout out Scientology. Oh,
Look, I'm sorry, but maybe if you had talked to me, this wouldn't have happened.
But they don't do that. That's what these corporations don't like you doing. You know why America, we are so fat? Because we don't have time to read the nutrition facts, or they don't let you do that. They expect you not to think about that. Yeah, exactly.
You get framed, and put in this perspective, it's very scary. And you are basically alone in this some iron lung machine thing that you are pretty much guiding to find this sample that doesn't really mean anything to them because they're only putting you through this sacrifice mission that you end up pretty much not surviving.
The insanity that one owns mind will lose. Oh!
Especially what happens when you're all isolated for so long. You start to lose your mind in the process. Only God knows what happens next.
Dude. They wouldn't put a CO2 scrubber in this. They wouldn't put a backup tank. There's no deposits down here. This is the end. And I'm wasting my breath talking to a phantom that's never there to begin with.
Pretty scary, right? And then you start to go crazy and start hallucinating things. Now I'm turning on something. I just want to put that in perspective because I assume Mark throughout the movie is hallucinating. Now, obviously, this might be a bit of a spoiler. This might be spoiling the movie, and I'm going to do a little bit of spoilers here and there because, I feel like maybe 60 to 70% of people probably saw this movie already, and it just came out on YouTube, but if you haven't, I'm not going to go too much in depth on exactly what happens in the conversations I have, but essentially Mark, or, Simon is the name of the character that he plays in this movie, pretty much gets, really stuck in this, cellar of a sub that he is called the Ireland, and he uses his x-ray machine to take photos. There's a part in the beginning of the movie where he was just kind of didn't understand what it was exactly that this was meant to do, and they get onto him for it. Like this lady that works up there gets onto him, the one who probably put him in this position in the first place, and he realizes that. And that's what the X-ray thing is pretty much for taking pictures of, it's like, in video games when you're playing you have a camera and it's like playing a supernatural game. The camera is pretty much like a gun to the ghosts or something like that. Like the flash gets them. It's kind of what the X-ray thing is.
X-rays are actually used to see the blood through. Interesting lore.
As long as I understand that that's pretty much what it is. But with that being said, though, the imagination that I had watching this movie, it was kind of sad. It made me think, what if I'm all alone in the dark, with a little bit of light just in the iron lung itself and just doing this mission? At the end of the world, humanity is at stake, by the way. Unless you're talking about like cooking me some steak. I wish. But you are all stuck in your head. And the thoughts start to catch up, and then you realize you may not make it. They're using you. Yes, they're using you as an experiment. That's how Simon was feeling, and that's what they ended up doing to him. Like, they were using him as an experiment. As much as my face might not be as apparent when the lights are on and whatnot, but this is pretty much what you would see. The darkness conceals itself, as you are just there wondering, why did everything end up the way it did in the first place? Because at the end times, in space especially, you're not in your home planet like you were maybe 1,000 years ago. We're talking hypothetically, by the way, that it's pretty scary. Like, the thought of that, it made me really wonder, like, being all alone. Where did everybody go? We're not doing that. Anyways, but you get the point, right? Lights back on. You get the idea. That's pretty much how I interpret all these, like, things happening in the movie. And it really just made me wonder, man, that's scary. And then this blood, like, from within this, like, thing that he found, this creature thing, the fragments of the skeletons, he's inside this monster. And apparently, it's what I understood from the end of the movie, because, and this is coming from a guy who hasn't even watched or played any of the games, watched the gameplays. And I pretty much understood a lot because of the, like, background information throughout the dialogue, where I pretty much understood how they ended up here, why they ended up here, yet it still makes no sense of what's the point? It's like, what's the point of doing all this, Why are we sacrificing more humans just because he is convicted of something that he maybe participated in? It's kind of sad, though, And Markiplier, Simon, let me correct myself, Simon really got overwhelmed. He got so upset at them for not letting him actually go when they made this deal. And it's just kind of sad. It's very disturbing. And the blood filling up, it was really wretched. Okay. Oh no! But with that being said, though, overall, this movie made me really think. And I just had to rant about that because, yes, I'm thanking God for being able to still be here alive and living a simple life, not being tortured or doing something very tremendous that gets me in the position that Simon got in the movie. Because holy moly, it would make me go insane. Like, it's like basically being arrested and going into solitary confinement with all the white room. But instead of just being in the normal room, you're under a blood ocean. Something I didn't touch on, and I'm going to wear my cross for this one, is the idea that God was at least mentioned in one of the conversations. Now, I'm not gonna spoil entirely what it was about or everything of it. If you want to go check it out, if you really want to check out, like, especially at the end of the movie when there's gore and all that blood that comes mentioned in, because he's in a blood ocean planet, or it's filled with blood. God be with you if you watch that movie. I was able to get through it because I'm sane enough to do so. And picking this pace up to say that, just imagining you complete your mission by sacrificing yourself like Jesus did on the cross, yet you kind of did it out of your will. One connection, I know this is kind of strange, but the connection I have with Jesus and Simon from the movie, at least that's connection. Not that they have a lot of similar qualities. No, maybe Simon, I would at least say he's probably a sinner to some extent. Maybe there is that. I don't know the full context as of, like, putting all this together. But from what I've seen from the movie, I can confirm that Jesus
was persecuted, hanging on the cross, and he took it as a way to sacrifice and hang himself on the cross for our sins. He died for us. Whereas Simon, he was put to the test by these people that were using him as a subject to find this sample that really they just didn't really care and went against him. And being down in the blood ocean that deep not only is agonizing, but it is just crazy how one thing could do to you. And if you're just like forced to do these side quests without like actual help, and they're just telling you to do something, but it really doesn't matter because they don't actually need you to do that and are only putting you through a test, that's their way of punishing Simon in the movie. And I mean, imagine future down the line and that's how you get punished. Like, are we going to be down deep in the ocean? I'd rather go to regular prison than the punishment that Simon did in the movie, because that would really put me in a completely maniacal position. I'd include that. May just be with y'all because Jesus died on the cross and you will be forgiven if you believe in him. Just had to include that in this very towards the end of the video.
That would make it even more crazy, because what if like the blood started leaking in, which it did in the movie. It's really hard to think about, but it did, and it got disturbing. I wasn't like, this movie made me jump a few times. This movie has a slow build-up, but it really got disturbing at the end of the movie. I was not expecting that, but I like it for that reason, and that's why I'll just say what the movie was at the next slide. But that's what I had to say about the movie.
We have reached the end. Overall, my thoughts on Ireland: atmospherically, bloody, and 9 out of 10. That was crazy. Let's just end it like that. To clarify, I only gave it a 9 because of the atmosphere. And for me, Markiplier did the best what he could with the resources, and he did a great job. And he's a YouTuber too. I gotta give respect to that. And I feel like we use YouTuber as an insult when we describe people. I mean, we literally had Kane Parsons do successful, as he is the currently youngest person to direct a movie that got so successful. The Backrooms, that is, by the way. So I give big respects to both the creators who are literally dominating with their own individual movies, by the way. And I think because the pacing and the build-up, some people aren't going to like that, or the slow-ness of what the Backrooms or Ireland, the movie, has to offer. Whereas movies like Obsession that Curry made is a bit more faster, a little bit, you kind of expect things happening in an instant. I get why people are going to enjoy those movies more. For me, I like the build-up and kind of figuring things out as we go. Unless I can't figure out what was happening until the very end, which wasn't the case for Markiplier's Ireland, then it would get as much points. That's why I gave it a 9. Oh my gosh! Sorry, it was the transition. It was based on David's game. I'm gonna read some of the comments. Only $10, Mark. You're probably giving this movie. You've given us the movie because it's so true. Like, this is like God's given right here, bro. Anyways, I had first watched it myself. The ending credits scene where he finally escapes the blood ocean, curls up in Ryan Gosling's arms was peak, not gonna lie. I haven't reached that part yet. Kind of romantic, we're all getting iron lungs to... Never mind that, let's get to the end credits scene. This is me when there wasn't actually an end credits scene after that comment just said that. So, that comment that said about something of end credits scene with Ryan Gosling, unless it was only exclusive to the theaters, I didn't see it for the YouTube release, so I guess that comment was wrong.